With Evgenii Dadonov nearing a return, does that mean the Dallas Stars will send Logan Stankoven back to Texas? Let's discuss next on Locked On Stars.
Your Locked On Stars, your daily podcast on the Dallas Stars. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Howdy, Stars fans, and welcome back to another episode of Locked On Stars, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. It's a pleasure to be with you. I'm Joey Erickson, former producer of 105 Through the Fan and play-by-play voice of the Chippewa Steel. Please be sure to subscribe. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube. And as always, thank you so much for making us a part of your day and making us your first listen. Happy Thursday, Stars fans. Just a couple of games remain this season, and the Dallas Stars have a chance to clinch the Central Division tonight with a win over the Winnipeg Jets. We'll preview that matchup. We'll play Shooting Star as well, but I want to begin today's episode talking about the possibility of Logan Stankoven being loaned back to the Texas Stars. How dare they, you could say, but it really is a possibility, and I'll tell you why in just a moment. I hope your week is going phenomenal so far. The Stars are on a roll. We still don't know who their first round opponent will be in the Stanley Cup playoffs, but that will be decided in about 7 days from now, believe it or not. Today's episode is brought to you by Indeed. Indeed knows when you're growing your own business, you have to make every dollar count. That's why with Indeed, you only pay for quality applications that match your must-have job requirements. Visit Indeed.com/lockedon to start hiring now. Terms and conditions apply. So the reason I bring up this topic is because Evgenii Dadonov returned to practice yesterday. Jani Hakanpää has still not returned, but is progressing. It was a scheduled day off for him and Tyler Seguin. But with Evgenii Dadonov nearing a return, Pete DeBoer did bring up that he would like to get him in a game before the season is over, along with Jani Hakanpää before the playoffs. Well, in order to do that, or at least to activate Evgenii Dadonov himself, the Dallas Stars would have to loan Logan Stankoven back to the American Hockey League with the Texas Stars to activate him, which would be very, very interesting. Of course, I would be totally against that because Logan Stankoven has been a spark this season for the Dallas Stars. Late in February when he was called up, the Stars were struggling, and then boom, they've gone on this run now for about a month and a half where you feel like the Stars are sort of a juggernaut to some degree. They're not impenetrable by any stretch of the imagination, but they're a real difficult team to beat, and I think he has a lot to do with that, with the way he plays, with the way he's been able to fit right in with Jamie Benn and Wyatt Johnston. That trio all of a sudden has been lighting the lamp consistently. And do you really want to bring Evgenii Dadonov back in the fold? Because it could certainly mess some of that up. And does he really fit in the top six or bottom six now with what you've seen here over the last few weeks? And I completely understand wanting to get him back into the fold before the postseason. But as you heard yesterday, for all you everydayers out there, I talked about the health updates of Dadonov and Hakanpää. And my feeling is Evgenii Dadonov is someone that sits in the press box and watches most games until you have an injury and need to fit him in. And you need to get him a spot start because someone is banged up. But the Stars also have to worry about the cap. That is a real situation. It's the reality of the situation. They will not have enough cap space. So the Stars have about 2,000 or 280,000, I should say, of projected cap space. And with Dadonov on the LTIR, that's what allowed Stankoven to be brought up. And Dadonov has a 2.7% cap hit at $2.25 million. So how are the Stars going to manage this? Do they really want to send Stankoven back to the AHL for a few games just to bring him up? I don't know. Seems like a really interesting debacle the Stars are going to have to maneuver here in the next few days. Also, there is a possibility that Dadonov could be sent down to Texas. He has to agree to it if they wanted to get him a conditioning stint, so to speak. He would have to agree to that due to the restrictions in his contract, which would be really, really interesting, because do you really want to loan Logan Stankoven back to Texas? It doesn't seem like the logical move with how seamlessly he's fit in up front. And he's been a dog. He's been really, really stinking good. And the points haven't been as fortuitous here recently, or he hasn't been as productive point wise, but we all know the type of player he is, and the points are just a part of what comes with Logan Stankoven. He does a lot more that does not show up on the stat sheet night in and night out, that Dadonov frankly just can't provide at this point. He is a great veteran piece, and I understand wanting to get him into the lineup here in the last few games, because the Stars pretty much have it wrapped up. You would suppose they're probably going to have home ice advantage throughout the Stanley Cup playoffs. They're probably going to win the West, but do you want to mess up kind of the mojo you have? And I think it's a real interesting little pickle the Stars are in, because in order to activate Evgenii Dadonov, they would have to send Stankoven back to the minors. Is that something they really want to do? Dadonov with 23 points in 50 games this season. Stankoven with 14 points in 21 games. And now you have to kind of ask that question. Do you really want to mess with the mojo? Do you really want to send Stankoven back to the minors and bring him back? Because I would assume he's going to come back for the Stanley Cup playoffs. How is that all going to work? And of course, in today's day and age, it is all about cap gymnastics. And the Stars have done a fairly decent job in the past few years of being able to figure that out. And you also have to mix in the possibility of Jani Hakanpää coming back. Of course, he is not on the LTIR, and he was another guy that Pete DeBoer would like to get into a game, because he's going to be in the lineup game one of round one. That's just book it. Just book it. Jani Hakanpää will be in the lineup. So that's another piece. And of course, Hakanpää is not on the LTIR, but of course is another piece to this puzzle. Very, very interesting. Very, very interesting dilemma, because on one hand, how could you? Why would you send him down with the way he's played? And he's earned every bit of his ice time, and he's earned every bit of his play. He's earned to be here. And I don't know if you want to go through the possibility of sending him down, bringing him up, and Dadonov in and out of the lineup being a healthy scratch. I think there's going to have to be some discussions there. My personal opinion, you don't send Stankoven down at all. Makes no sense to me. Makes zero sense. I think you just have to figure it out, frankly. And that's easier said than done. I'm saying that from a room here in Wisconsin. I'm not Jim Nill having to look at dollars and cents and all of that. My personal opinion is, heck no. You don't mess with it. Stankoven has to be in the lineup. He's going to be in the lineup in round one, game one. He has to be. Like, come on. He has to be. He's completely elevated his line. He elevates others. And that line, frankly, has been dominant for like a month. Has been dominant. And it hasn't even led to him picking up an ungodly amount of points, which he's done pretty well. I mean, 14 in your first 21 career games is nothing to scoff at, but Ben and Johnston have certainly carried a lot of the offensive production here in the last month. It's insane the type of numbers they have been putting up, but Stankoven is a part of that because he works his tail off, he forechecks, he tracks back hard, he's got a great stick, he's very, very responsible in his own zone. You name it, the guy can do it. And now they have the question in order, or the dilemma, in order to activate Dadonov, you're going to have to send him back to the minors. So very, very curious. And maybe they can find another way to just muster up some more cap space. I don't know. Maybe there's other possibilities out there for the Stars to do. I'm sure they'll figure it out, but you can't have Stankoven not be in the lineup in the Stanley Cup playoffs, right? I mean, you could, obviously, but no, absolutely not. You don't do that. Anyways, here we go. That's just a little thing for you with Dadonov here nearing a return. Good to see he's progressing, of course. All love to Evgenii Dadonov. This is not a knock on him, but I think we can all come to an agreement that Stankoven is a better player and should be playing with the Dallas Stars in the biggest moments of the season that are right around the corner. Anyways, it's my 2 cents. We'll move on from there. We'll move on from it. We won't even think about it, okay? We don't even want to think about Stankoven going back down to the minors. They have to deal and worry about tonight. The Winnipeg Jets come into town. Stars have played fairly well against the Jets this season, and the Central Division title is on the line. Let's jump into it in just a moment. Today's episode of Locked On Stars is brought to you by Factor Meals. During this time of year, Stars fans, the weather is starting to get better. You're running around, you're outside, you're constantly doing activities, trying to stay upbeat, trying to stay active, and sometimes you don't have a ton of time to stop at home, to get groceries, stop at the grocery store, and cook for 10 to 15 minutes. That's why you need to eat stress-free with Factor. Ready-to-eat meals. It's fresh, never frozen. It's chef-crafted, dietitian-approved, and ready to eat in just 2 minutes. It's tailored to your schedule. You can customize your weekly meals. They have so much flexibility, so you don't have to hamper your lifestyle. Factor is your solution for fast premium meals without the need for cooking. Head to factormeals.com/LockedOnNHL50 and use code LockedOnNHL50 to get 50% off your box plus 20% off your next box. That's code LockedOnNHL50 at factormeals.com/LockedOnNHL50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next box while your subscription is active. So the Stars have a chance to clinch the division title tonight. It would be their first since 2015-16 if they pick up a win against the Winnipeg Jets. It's the fourth and final meeting between the Stars and Jets this season, and the Stars have taken the first 3 matchups. The last time they met back in February, if you remember, that was a big game for the Stars. They had gotten in that real tough stretch in the month of February. They got boat raced against Colorado in Denver a few nights prior, and then they had to come back home to face a really good Winnipeg team, and they took down the Jets 4-1. They also played them a pair of times in November. They shut them out in the 28th meeting 2-0, and then on the 11th, they took them down 3-2. They played some of their more solid games here of the season against Winnipeg, and the Jets currently sit in third place, just a point behind the Avs with 4 games remaining, so they still have something to play for as they look for home ice advantage in the first round, because it's pretty much suiting up to be a Colorado Winnipeg Jets first round matchup, which I think will be one heck of a series. And unfortunately, one of those teams will have to be out in the first round. It's been a tale of two halves in the last 10 games for the Jets. They've won 4 straight, but they're just 4-5-1 in their last 10. So they're coming in with some pretty decent form. Kyle Connor, he's their leading scorer, 7 points in their last 5 games. He did go out for a stretch, but he's pretty much their leading scorer this season. Jake Ottinger, of course, has won his last 8 starts. The Stars are 9-1-2 in their last 10, and they're really rolling. So a big time matchup at the American Airlines Center, and the Stars have a chance to clinch the Central Division tonight, which would be fantastic. A lot of great things are happening with the Stars here down the stretch. Connor Hellenbuck, of course, has just been a total workhorse for the Jets, and he's been so good. He'll be a top 3 candidate for the Vezina this season. 35, 19, and 4, a 2.42 goals against average, and a 920 save percentage. He's played really good against the Stars this season, but not completely lights out, which of course has allowed the Stars to win the first 3 meetings. They've been able to get some pucks past them, scored 4 once, 3 and 2, but mainly what has stuck out against the Jets is the ability for the Stars to just completely shut down their offensive attack. If you can kind of take Scheifele and Connor out of the mix, you have a really, really good chance to beat the Jets. They aren't a real deep team in terms of talent, but they are deep with size and physicality, which had given the Stars some troubles early on in the year, but hasn't really happened here as of late. Dallas has just been so smooth, especially with their breakout, and that's the key for the Stars against teams like Winnipeg. And a key to look at during tonight's game: how are the Stars breaking out of their own zone? Can they do it cleanly? Are they making 1-2 passes and then boom, they're at neutral ice and they're on the rush going downhill at the opposition's net? They have been superb in that department. I mean, they have been superb. They struggled in the first period against Buffalo the other night with all the turnovers and mismanagement with their puck play. But you look at a lot of the opponents, the good ones they've played, like Vancouver here, Seattle, and Colorado, just how quickly they get the puck off their stick to one another, and then boom, they're out to center. And mainly that's due to the wonderful play from the back end. Miro and Harley, of course, are one of the best pairings in all of the National Hockey League in terms of controlled zone exits. And then you have Tanev and Lundell, who are just completely shut down. And Tanev, by the way, a real misunderstood quality of him, or I should say underappreciated quality and trait he has, is his ability to work through contact, stay with the puck, and find an open man, or at least find the outlet pass. I think he's phenomenal, especially beneath his own inline. He hits that little bumper pass when the center curls through the slot, like really low, like he'll hit Johnston a few times. And then if you get the puck on Johnston's stick, you just watch in awe of what he's going to do after that. They have been really good with their breakouts. Their passes has been crisp, which has really helped their offense as well. Defense turning into offense. That kind of is the theme and kind of what makes the Dallas Stars really good this season. And that's certainly something I will be taking a very vested interest in tonight to see how is going to be really desperate. I think the Jets are going to play with that type of pace in their game. They want to have home ice advantage, especially against a very good quality Colorado team. I don't know how they feel going into a series like that, because can you really ask Hellenbuck to be incredible against that Colorado attack night in and night out? And I've made it very well known I'm not the highest on the Winnipeg Jets. I don't think they have the ability to do a ton of damage come postseason time. But look, things happen. I don't think a lot of people thought Seattle was going to do damage last season. And then boom, they beat Colorado in 7 games, who was a heavy favorite, and they took the Stars to the brink. So anything can happen, and that's what makes the Stanley Cup playoffs so special, I suppose. Alrighty, well, that's a bit more on tonight's matchup. The 4th and final meeting between the Stars and Jets, the Central Division title on the line. If the Stars win, it would be their first since 2015, 2016. How about that? And they could do it on home ice at the American Airlines Center. Let's play Shooting Star. Who will lead the Dallas Stars to victory? We'll do that next. Today's episode of Locked On Stars is brought to you by Indeed. When you're drafting your fantasy team, do you ever wish you could just handpick the best stars for your business? If you're building your talent roster, you need Indeed. Indeed is the hiring platform where you can attract, interview, and hire all in one place. Don't spend hours on multiple job sites looking for candidates with the right skills when you could do it all with Indeed. Find top talent fast with Indeed's suite of powerful hiring tools like matching assessments and virtual interviews. Hate waiting? Indeed's US data shows over 80% of Indeed employers find quality candidates whose resume on Indeed matches their job description the moment they host a job. Candidates you invite to apply through Instant Match are 3 times more likely to apply to your job than candidates who only see it in search, according to US Indeed data. So go ahead. Indeed knows you're trying to grow your business. Go to Indeed.com/lockedon to start hiring now. You have to make every dollar count. That's why with Indeed, you only pay for quality candidates that match your must-have requirements. Just go to Indeed.com/lockedon, Indeed.com/lockedon. Terms and conditions apply. Cost per application pricing not available for everyone. You need to hire. You need Indeed. Okay, we bring the Shooting Star segment back on today's episode of Locked On Stars. We've really cooled off here as of late. So sometimes you just got to step away, come back, reset, and see what we can do. By the way, be sure to check out Locked On Sports Today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel. It's on YouTube. It's on the free Amazon Fire TV channels app as well. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Be sure to hop over there to take a look. Be sure to subscribe, hit that notification bell to Locked On Stars. You can follow me on Twitter at Joey the Jet 19, and also Locked On Stars on Twitter. Alrighty, without further ado, who is tonight's shooting star against the Winnipeg Jets? I'm going with the one, the only Roope Hintz. We highlighted him earlier this week, and I feel like Roope Hintz against the Jets is going to bury some of those breakaways. He's gotten a ton here in the last month or so, and he hasn't been able to pot as many as you would hope. He did get a couple of those deflections here in back-to-back games against Chicago and Colorado, but I just feel like a straight breakaway from the red line in. Roope Hintz goes upstairs for his 31st goal of the season, and Roope extends his point streak to 4 straight games. I'm going with the Finnish Mafia selection. Give me Roope Hintz. And maybe Miro sets him up like he did in Chicago. Maybe Miro can control his temper a bit and not get a game misconduct and taken out of the game like he did a few days ago, which was wild, by the way. Wild. You do not see Miro go off the rails that much, but I think that shows you how upset and how done he was with the Stripes at night. There were some intriguing calls in that one. There's a lot of intriguing calls most games, and sometimes that's why I like the postseason. Refs swallow the whistle a bit more. Sometimes they don't. It just depends on the crew, but usually they swallow the whistle a bit more. They let them play, and that's a good thing. We don't need a special teams fest all the time, even though I'm not going to complain if the Stars get calls, but we have certainly seen, especially recently, I feel like the referees have gotten a bit wonky in the last few years, and albeit it's a tough job, and I'm not a rah-rah ref guy by any stretch. I think I think most listeners could attest to that for sure. But I'm sure there's going to be one in this postseason run that just really grinds my gears, and I'm going to rant about it for an entire 15-minute segment. So maybe that's something to look forward to. It's a little tease for you upcoming in the Stanley Cup playoffs, because power plays can change the game, man, especially power play goals. They can turn a series upside down. Look what happened with Dallas and Minnesota last year when Stars just lit them up like a Christmas tree in those 6 games. All right, that's who I'm going with, though. Roope Hintz. Let's do it, Roope. Make me smart, Roope. Make me smart. Let me feel good about my selection for the first time in a while. We brought back the segment just for you tonight. Anyways, that'll do it. Dallas Stars a chance to clinch the Central Division tonight. I'll say it one more time for you. They are first place in the Central Division, by the way, with 109 points. They've already eclipsed 50 straight wins. 50 wins. Imagine that. Woo, what a run that would be. That would be insane. Talk about shattering a franchise record. That'll do it for today's episode of Locked On Stars. Have a wonderful evening. I'll be working a game tonight, so nothing live after or anything like that. I'll have to catch you on the flip side as we break down the game tomorrow. Have a great, wonderful, fantastic rest of your day, and we'll see you on Friday. So long, Stars fans.